The desire to live in a home, in a clearly delineated residential space where you feel the perimeter and you feel the roof over you and you sense the kind of privacy of your residential domain is a kind of a universal thing. But it's a very rare thing to find on the island of Manhattan. This penthouse sits on the 21st through 24th levels of an early Lower Manhattan skyscraper, one of the tallest buildings in the world when it was built, and one of the earliest steel frame buildings in New York City. The complexity of this envelope of space, created opportunities for spatial richness and volumetric richness that we very much wanted to exploit to the full. Our challenge was in very carefully defining how all of the pieces come together in a quite complex three-dimensional fashion, and then having every confidence that that would be executed impeccably.
Usually the way you get your head around a job is that you have a certain room that you get into, and the architect and you define what's going to happen in that room, and you understand that's typical for the whole project. This time, when you looked at certain sections and details of schematic CAD drawings that were the best representation of where we're headed, it was very hard to understand how they were ultimately going to be in terms of a space. Nothing was typical. You weren't looking at typical details.
I am convinced that absence is the essential material of architecture, and that the shaping of space, the clear delineation of volumes of space, is the most fundamental task of the architect. To a degree, you have the conventions of a normal residence with living spaces and entertaining spaces. But what emerged as we developed the design was very much a desire to constantly exploit the fact that we're sitting on top of a skyscraper in Manhattan with extraordinary views in every direction. There's also a desire to highlight aspects of the original building, the steel structure, the arched windows, as fascinating pieces of urban archaeology, but also envelop them within a very contemporary design aesthetic, so that there's no question that we're here in the present. You can pass your eye over all of the compositions of intersecting voids in the project and really understand that it is not so much the solid forms that have been designed as the voids, the absences, and the intersections between them that allow you to move from one space to another. The living space emerged very early as the one space that would rise the entire height of the penthouse structure. And supporting that was the main column that was rising through the center. There was also a sense that occupying the mid-levels of that living room volume was really something to be exploited. The slide also emerged very early as one of these whimsical and very engaging elements of the project. The slide was fabricated in Germany in sections, brought into the construction site in pieces while the structural steelwork was still going on, and hoisted into position, welded in place so that it has this very precise relationship with all the finishes that were going to come later.
An apartment like this is like a watch, you know, all the little components have to be in place before the watch starts ticking.
The extraordinary thing here really was working with a builder, with a team of extraordinarily skilled and talented fabricators for every aspect of the project: stone, glass, metalwork, woodwork. We all have to come together at a single point and have it all be exactly as was conceived.
What's so exciting about this project is that you do all that effort, and then to have it look as amazing as it looks, it's very exciting because you realize that the architect's vision worked. What happened here is that the client and the architect allowed their mind to expand and allowed them to have a sense of play about what would be an amazing space, and then they ran with that and said yes to things that were very important to keeping that sense of play within the project. It's remarkable.
People have a dream of living in New York City, and of your living space taking in the richness and diversity and activity of this incredibly vital city. And to sit in this residence and see it all spread around you is a really fantastic thing.